Okay. Well, I think I'm live. I'll wait a couple of minutes just for people to come in. This is really kind of my first time going live with things, so please excuse me if I'm fumbling around a little bit. Was having some problems logging on right at first. But happy to be here. Happy that you are all here. Hi, Avi. I'll try to keep my gaze down to see people coming in and comments and things like that. Today we are going to talk about Ganesha, about Ganapati, the elephant-headed deity. Hi, Mary. Hi, Paula. One thing, just having seen things yesterday and knowing how much that there's quite a diverse audience here with Embodied Philosophy, a lot of really long-time practitioners. Hi, Miss Kiri. A lot of people that are new to the practice and new to a lot of these concepts and images. So I want to find a way that offers something for everybody, both for the fresh beginner and people that have been practicing or working with these practices, these mantras, these images for a long, long time. Hey, SS Daydreams. So we'll give it just another minute or so as people are coming in, and then we can kind of dive into everything that's going on. My name is Ashton. I'm happy to be sharing with everybody today. Hey everybody, video request. I don't know what that is, but I'll try to see. We've got a few Ganeshas behind me on the big tapestry, a few on my altar back there. Hopefully you are familiar with Ganesha. He's actually the most, probably the most beloved deity in the Hindu pantheon, as well as even around the world. He's very much loved and beloved, and he's a wonderful character. And of course, he is us. There are different ways of looking at these deities. One is some supernatural being out there somewhere, or as our own very nature and different ways of experiencing that nature. And that's the perspective that I'll be giving. Hi, Sophie. Nice to see you. Welcome, everybody. I wish I could just sit there and tap wave to everybody, because it's given me the option to wave to everybody. But I don't know, I feel like we can probably get started now. Just to give a little basis of how today will go with me doing this Instagram takeover, which, like I said, it's the first time I've ever done something like this. So hopefully, I couldn't even log on to the account earlier and was freaking out right before we started. So just trying to figure everything out. But luckily Ganesha came through so we could get things started on time. I see the Hindu stories as a deep, beautiful representation of human nature. Absolutely. Well, and the Puranas are very much, these are these collections of stories of these deities that make the teachings, the philosophy of yoga much more accessible to us so that we can relate to it in a personal way. If it's some far off distant thing, it's not really helpful in our daily lives. The point is to really digest these experiences and these stories. And you'll also see that's a big part of Ganapati. His ability to integrate and digest the world as it's coming in. So the way today will go for me, we're here now, it's 9 o'clock on Pacific time where I'm at, and I'll be doing this one live here at 9, then another one at 12 Pacific time, and then again at 4 Pacific time. Today, at this 9 o'clock time, I'm going to share a little bit about Ganesha, a little bit about his common symbols, what they represent, what they might mean, how we might be able to understand them a little bit more. I'll share 108 rounds of the Ganapati Mantra that we will be doing for our day today. And as well, I'll share Ganesha's origin story, how he came to be. And then at 12 o'clock Pacific time, I'm going to share a story of Ganesha and King Kubera. Another wonderful story about Ganesha and how we trick ourselves into thinking that the next thing that I get will finally make me happy, and how Ganesha can help us address that tendency that we all have to want more and to think that once we get more spiritual teachings, more stuff, more job, more money, that then finally we can be happy. And then we'll also share again 108 rounds of the Ganapati Mantra, which really only takes a few minutes. Kartikeya, yes, I know. Someone just mentioned Ganesha's brother as well in the chat. So there are many more stories. And in truth, we could spend a lifetime just on the stories alone and breaking down their nuance and their meaning. And even for that, there are literally an infinite number of varieties of each of these stories. As many as there are people telling these stories and have told these stories, there are that many different varieties of the stories. So you may have heard these stories before. You may hear some slight different variations in what I'm going to share today. That's great too. It's not about like there's one story that's the right story and other ones are wrong. It's really about how we're able to assimilate and digest these stories so that they actually interact with us and come alive to us in our lives. That's really most important. And then, so going back, we've got the King Kubera story happening at 12, 108 rounds, which only takes about 5 minutes. And then again at 4 o'clock, we'll share a story of Ganesha and his brother and their race around the universe. And then another 108 rounds then. So I hope you'll join us for all three, or if you're only joining us for this one now, that's great too. I think this stuff is all recorded, so maybe you can check it out another time as well. But I guess here we go. Hopefully you're sitting comfortably or laying comfortably is fine too. Hi, Art. So hopefully we are all familiar with this image of Ganapati, which like I said before, is you can find behind me. There's a few likenesses of him on my altar back there, both in the tapestry and on the altar. He's this elephant-headed deity, which like I said, later in this live broadcast, or whatever we would call it, I'll explain how he got his elephant head. But I want to talk about some of the common things that we will see associated with Ganesha, because it actually helps us to understand what Ganesha is all about, what it means for our lives, because of course Ganesha is us. First and foremost, you see this elephant head, which we'll have a whole story for that, so I'll get more into that in a moment. Hello from the west of Ireland and Brazil. All right, right on. Some of the few images that we'll see, you'll see him holding things. A very common form of Ganesha has 4 arms. Can't really see me and all that, but 4 arms, holding various objects. And each of these objects tell us a little bit more about what Ganesha is here to represent and what it means in our own lives. One of the things that he's going to carry, you'll see him carrying, is a noose, like a lasso. Now this represents a really big part of Ganapati, which is the remover of obstacles, but also he is the placer of obstacles. So this noose represents both of those things. The ability of Ganesha, but anytime I say Ganesha, I mean ourselves. The ability to ensnare ourselves, to trap ourselves, to get caught up in our own mental blockages. Oh, I couldn't possibly do this because I'm this way, or oh, I'm not good enough to do that. I couldn't possibly do this thing. So we trap ourselves. We get ourselves caught up in stories and ideas. In Sanskrit, we call them vikalpas, all these various thought forms that prevent us from really experiencing the moment as it is, let alone accomplishing things out in the world. So that is the noose, the ability both to ensnare, but also we have the freedom with that noose to either let it go or to pull us along somewhere. So the things that we perceive to be obstacles can be obstacles, or perhaps they can be the things that help to propel us forward into life. And actually that's the next common symbol you'll often see is the prod, the ankusham, the goad. If you've ever been to India or Thailand, you'll often see in domesticated elephants, if there's a rider, they've got this sort of poker. It's kind of sad in a certain sense that they'll use to poke the elephant to get them to move and to go. But in the same way, this is that bit of push that we all need sometimes in life to really break us free of those mental patterns that can ensnare us and trap us. So sometimes we all need that little push in life that gets us to move towards the divine, move towards our true nature and self. And let me go on to say too, there are a lot of different ways to interpret Ganapati. A very common way of interpreting him as this figure out there that helps us to remove obstacles in our lives so we can achieve things that we want. So you'll hear Ganapati invoked when somebody's starting a new business, a new venture, a new project, because they want success in that thing. And that's wonderful and great, and you can access that energy of Ganapati that way. As a tantric yogi myself, the most important thing though really is realizing our true essence nature. We start everything from there. So Ganapati is really about removing the obstacles that prevent us from connecting to life in this moment as it is right here and now. And that moment might have someone in front of you that has a different belief system than you, that might feel differently, a different political view than you. One of the things in particular in this last year of 2020, at least in my own life, this has been the most divisive, conflicted year I've been a part of in the world, at least in this body anyways. People have really strong opinions about things and we're really divided. And Ganapati is here to help us remove the obstacles that allow us to connect to others that may have different beliefs than us. It's not about transcending these things and ignoring them. There are a lot of very real issues in the world right now for us to deal with, but Ganapati helps us to connect to life, to ourselves, to others, so then we can engage in those difficult conversations of apparent differences. It's not to get past them, to conquer them, right? In Ganesha, in a certain sense, if you're familiar with Indra, some of these old Vedic gods, he kind of takes the place of Indra, and instead of like conquering and overcoming life, he's there to create relationship of life. Ganesha is really about the yoga of relationship, which we'll continue to explore through these stories all throughout the day. You'll also notice that Ganesha is always depicted with a single tusk. So he's got one tusk and another tusk that is broken. That's another really lovely story. Ganesha writing down the whole Mahabharata, this beautiful Indian epic. When the sage Vyasa came to him asking him to write this great epic down, no pen, no pencil could last that long to be able to write everything down without stopping. So he breaks off his own tusk so that he can write the whole Mahabharata down in one sitting. And this represents for us the necessity of self-sacrifice, the necessity that we are going to have to break free of these things that bind us, that trap us, that prevent us from connecting. We're going to have to give up parts of ourselves. We're going to have to be willing to give up certain things that we attach ourselves to, that identify us, but that also entrap us and enslave us in a certain sense. So that is that singular tusk, is the willingness to let go of parts of yourselves to open into a deeper relationship, whether that relationship is with yourself or with others. Ganesha is often depicted with these big floppy ears, right? You see him all the time, these big enormous ears, because he's a good listener. As Ganesha is this representation of the yoga of relationship. Part of that is being able to receive, to listen. Now, sometimes we hear things that we don't want to hear or we're not ready to hear. So you also see Ganesha with this big, enormous belly. Why does he have a big belly? He has a big belly because he's able to take in all of life and digest it. Once we're able to let go of those aspects that don't really serve us, that are keeping us trapped and blocked, we can assimilate and digest all the experiences of life. You also see Ganesha with this symbol of the mouse, right? His vehicle, as it were, is a mouse, which is kind of silly because you've got this big giant elephant and this little tiny mouse. But what is the mouse able to do? the mouse is able to sneak its way into all kinds of different places that you didn't think it could get into. And this is what happens when we're willing to let go of these things that are keeping us locked and blocked. We start to sneak into areas that we never thought we could really get into before. We find new ways of relating, new ways of moving into relationship with the world that we never thought of or thought was possible before that. Let's see, what else? The modicum, right? So you will almost always see Ganesha with the sweet treat. He loves his sweets. And this is, for those that are more familiar with Hindu philosophy, there's a really great contrast between the modicum, the sweet treat, and the soma, the divine amrita, ambrosia of the gods. Because the soma is really about this internal experience. You drink the soma, the elixir of immortality, and you're in this internalized ecstatic state. It's something that's inside. For the modicum is the sweetness of life. And the modika is shared. You don't see Ganapati with just one sweet treat. He's got a whole bowl of sweets. Why? Because he wants to share them. He wants to share this experience of relationship and connection with everyone. And there's always enough sweets to go around. There's always enough sweetness in life to enjoy it. But how do we get to enjoy the sweetness of life? Well, again, we've got to look at all these other symbols again and recognize what it means, when we're locked up, when we're blocked. Well, we have to be willing to, we need a little push to get us to move away from those blockages. We've got to let go of an aspect of ourselves or aspects of ourselves that are keeping us locked in isolation, disconnected from everything else. Because of course, from the tantric viewpoint, the most essential misunderstanding, the mulla, it's translated as impurity, but it really just means like a misunderstanding. We think that we're separate from everything else. And the process of Ganesha is leading us into a relationship that brings us back into connection, into relationship with everything. And the sweet treat is part of that, because when we're able to move into a deeper relationship with life, we get to enjoy the sweetness of it all. But that sweetness is enjoyed in relationship. It's not some internalized experience with the eyes closed, but rather eyes open, and we're sharing it with others. You'll also often see Ganapati with the Abaya Mudra, right? The no fear mudra, holding his hand as to say, like, look, I've got nothing in my hand. There's nothing to fear here, because it's scary. It's scary to let go of parts of ourselves. It's scary to let go of things that we've been identifying with and holding on to. I view this, I'm a part of this political party or that political party. I believe this thing about, in recent times of, COVID-19, or I believe that thing of COVID-19. And it can be really scary to let go of things that we identify with. And so Ganesha is here to remind us that there's nothing to fear, that ultimately this is about a deepening of our relationship with the world and the universe and everyone and everything. And as much as it might be scary, ultimately there's nothing to fear, because when we're in that ecstasy of connection and relationship, all that fear is dissolved anyways. Okay, so I tend to talk pretty fast. I get excited. I love this stuff. Somebody in the chat says, Abaya Mudra is to assure you that everything will be all right. Indeed, right? Because it's all okay, man. It's all good. The sort of old school view of Maya being this illusion, that life is an illusion. So one way of interpreting that is like, hey man, it's all good. Like it's all an illusion anyways. But of course, the tantric viewpoint of that is not that life is an illusion, is that we're misunderstanding the nature of life. We're misunderstanding our connection to source, everything as source. And so when we come to that full realization, we realize there ultimately was nothing to worry about at all. But so I was saying, I tend to talk fast. I get excited to share this stuff and talk about it. So I'm going to take a moment of pause. If there's any other comments, things that you'd like to share about Ganesha, or things that you understand, or even questions that you have, feel free to write them in the chat right now. I'm going to have a sip of water. And then I think we can go ahead. Yes, you don't need to, I don't know if that's a raising a hand or just saying pew pew, but feel free to share in the chat. Like I said, I'm new to the Instagram live thing. All right. I don't even know how to tell like how many people are on or whatnot. But all right, I don't see anything coming in. Well, today for the Embodied Philosophy Challenge, we are going to chant the Ganapati Mantra of Om Gang Ganapataye Namah. Oh, all right, thanks, Ben. We will share the chant verbally together, which I will definitely encourage you to chant along. But if you're going to be chanting throughout the day for your meditation practice, part of the meditation resolution, I do encourage you to have something to help count your mantra. The count is not really ultimately that important. The reason why we count, or why we might use a mala to count, is because you can get quite ecstatic when you're chanting. It can really take you off into other places. And we're not here to transcend. We're not here to get out of here. We're here to really be embodied. In particular with this Ganapati Mantra, it's all about relation to our body, relationship to our breath, our mind, to our environment, to everything, to our essence nature. So we don't want to just shoot off into some transcendent realm where we're disconnected from everything, but to stay grounded in the real. And so having a mala to help you go through each, it's keeping you a little bit more grounded. So I do encourage that. But ultimately, if you just want to chant it once, 108 times, don't want to even count the times, that's fine too. Anything that helps you connect to yourself is really what we're here and all about. Poetics, yeah, wrote the mantra right there. Om Gang Ganapataye Namaha. Let's chant 108 rounds now. Like I said, it only takes about 5 minutes. It's not very long. And then on the end of that, I will share the origin story of Ganesha, of Ganapati. As someone wrote, though, she wrote, well, I think that's a she, but I guess it could be either. You'll see it written G-A-M with a little dot, or sometimes G-A-N, or sometimes G-U-N-G. Why all the different spellings? Well, because it's a transliteration of Sanskrit. But let's talk a little bit about Sanskrit, though, because the M with the dot on top isn't really a sound with the lips. It's more of a nasally sound, like a The Indians equate the sound to the sound of a bee buzzing. Now, in the West, we think of a bee buzzing as zzz with a Z sound, but actually in India, they think of it as like an NG sound, like a So it really feels in the sinuses. So it's gung. It's up in here, not gum. It's hard to see with my beard, right? But like, it's not a dying in your lips. It's a sound that's going to resonate up into the nasal cavity and even out the crown of your head, especially if you're working with just the bija mantras. And then Ganapati, the N there in the Gana is the N with the dot underneath. That means it's a retroflex sound of the tongue. The tongue is actually coming back in the mouth slightly. Ganapati. So Om Gang Ganapataye Namaha. Om Gang Ganapataye Namaha. So that will be our mantra. I do encourage you to chant along with us wherever you are. The great thing about mantra, though, is that even if you're not chanting it and it's just the vibration is coming, you're still getting some of the benefits of the mantra. That being said, mantra practice in general, what's understood is that the vocalized version of the mantra is actually the least powerful version of the mantra. There's sort of three levels that we get in the mantra. One is the vocalized version. The next is the barely audible. It's almost as if you're whispering the mantra to yourself. And then the final one is the completely internalized version of the mantra, the pure vibratory quality of it that's not coming out through actual audible sound. Now they say that the most powerful version of that is that internalized mantra, but you're not really in a rush to get there. It should arise naturally. We're literally talking about chanting it audibly for thousands upon thousands of times before there's even any reason to start to chant it internally, because that internal chant just arises on its own because you've been chanting so long the vocalization. Now, I'm sure many of you here have had, okay. Oh, good, wonderful, Kat. Is there a way to count the number? Yes. Okay, so I want to be able to access your guys' questions too. That's a great reason to use a mala. Someone asks, is there a way to count the number of times to chant without focusing on the numbers? Absolutely. And a mala, a typical mala will have 108 beads on it. And you'll have a bead here that is, this one is not a good representation of that because it's not any different than the others, that lets you know where that 108 is. So as your eyes are closed and you're going through chanting along, each time you're just holding on to one of the beads, passing through Om ganapataye namah, and you switch the bead, Om ganapataye namah, and switching the bead. And by the time you get back to that guru bead, at the end here, you know you've reached 108, and you can just whoop, right? Go right back to it. So you're not actually counting like number 1, number 2, number 3. You just go through your mala, and when you get to the guru bead at the end, you know like, oh, okay. Traditionally speaking, you're going to hold it with the ring finger. The ring finger is associated with the heart, all right? And this is bringing us to that nature of the heart. Which is the seat of the Atman, the soul of Shiva, the inner guru, all right? And we're just moving it along with the thumb, right, each time. So you don't actually have to count, as Surya Bindu so wonderfully pointed out in the chat as well, right? So you're not counting it so much as just going through your mullas and it's coming up. Whew, yes, 108 has very specific meanings. That's something that we could spend hours on, even just diving into that. I want to try to stay focused because I tend to go down rabbit hole after rabbit hole, and we'll try to keep these relatively short-ish. Otherwise, I'll be sitting here talking all day. But maybe we can get into the significance of 108 at another time. So where were we? Om ganapataye is our mantra. We're gonna chant it 108 times. Remember, you don't have to count. If you're new and you don't have a mala, you don't need to go out and like buy a mala or something like that. Just chant and keep chanting until it feels like, you know, you're ready to just sit and absorb and sit in the silence. Before I jumped in the chat, I was talking about the various levels of the mantra, from the audible vocalization to the whisper to the silence. One of the things that is really wonderful, and you'll notice the audible one is, and why it's encouraged to do it literally thousands upon thousands of times before going to the less audible or silence, is because it's actually a pranayama. It's a purification of the nadis in the body, because every time that you're chanting it audibly, you have to take a breath, right? So it's Om ganapataye namaha, Om ganapataye namaha, and you're taking a breath each time, and so you're getting it's a very sort of hypnotic breathing pattern that comes along. Each mantra has its own breathing pattern, so it's working with the subtle body differently. Once you move to the whispered, this barely audible version of the mantra, you can actually chant it while you're inhaling and exhaling. You're not actually taking a breath as a separate thing anymore, but rather the mantra itself becomes the breath. And it's hard to demonstrate over like a microphone on the camera here, but like Om ganapataye namah, Om ganapataye namah. You can have it on the inhale and the exhale. So it takes on a whole new dimension at that point. And then once it's internalized, the breath is going where the breath is going. There's the mantra just stays absolutely continuous. There's no breaks at all in the mantra because it just continues to repeat and repeat and repeat. And so that's why eventually it moves in that direction. But there's no need to try to just do it internally at the beginning. Stay with the vocal version for as long as it just feels right. And that literally will likely be thousands of times. Can you please? Yes. Okay. So if you're just coming on right now, you can rewind. I went over it before, but just for one more time, real quickly, and then we'll chant it as I'm saying, like, yes, let's chant it. Om, which was the mantra for yesterday's aspect of the challenge. So look at all the wonderful stuff from Suzanne, I believe. Not Susan, Suzanne. Sorry. She goes into Om wonderfully through a few different shares that she did there. Gung, G-A-M with the little dot on top, you'll often see, is more sounding like gung, G-U-N-G. So the A, just the base A in Sanskrit is an sound, like America. So, and the M with the dot is this nasally sound, more of like an NG than an M sound that's ending at the lips. So Om, Gung, ganapataye, and again the N for the gana is the retroflex. You're gonna actually bring your tongue back. You can't see that on the palate. Ganapataye, and then namah. It's saying, salutations to Ganesha. I bow before Ganesha, but again, Ganesha is not some like dude out in the universe somewhere. Ganesha is our own selves. So we are bowing to ourselves in this. We're bowing to that aspect of ourselves that's putting obstacles in our way that are keeping us separate. We're bowing to ourselves that's removing those obstacles so that we can connect with everything. And Om, of course, being a bija mantra, Gung being a bija mantra, so those don't have any actual meaning. They are pure vibratory sounds that direct us back to Source itself. So hopefully that helps. All right. So we will go ahead and chant 108 rounds now. If you have a mala and you want to follow along, wonderful. If not, no worries too. We'll go through 108. You're welcome. But I do encourage you first to find a comfortable way to sit. Generally, we don't want to lay down when doing meditation or even mantra. Ultimately, if you want to lay down, okay, lay down. But it's nice to sit up. It's going to help you stay awake, especially if you really develop a meditation practice of things going along. You want to make sure that you're staying awake through all of this. Sitting as upright as possible. That has a physiological benefit in the sense that when we're kind of slouching, you're more likely to start to get aches and pains in your body as you go along. It's said that it also has that subtle body effect of making sure that the central channel is aligned. But, if you think that the physical body is really interacting that much with the subtle body, we can have a conversation about that. But really, just you want to sit up as tall as you can, just so the breath is free and open. The body's aligned in a way that will allow you to sit longer. But ultimately, if you sit a little more slouched, there's no like yoga gods that are going to come and get you and punish you. So just make sure that you're sitting comfortably. Encourage you to settle your eyes closed. Begin by becoming aware of your relationship to your body, your breath. What do you notice? What do you feel? Notice the flow of your breath moving in and out. I said before, you can join us in the repetition of the mantra, which you are encouraged to do, or you can simply listen, let the mantra wash over you. But I encourage you to join along with us. Om Ganapataye namaha. 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 Gently become aware of your body and breath again. Typically, I would encourage us to sit longer in silence. But for today, for educational purposes, we'll continue. Although I do encourage you, as part of your own practice and throughout the rest of this day and your life, to utilize this mantra and sit quietly afterwards. But let's even talk for a moment about how one might utilize this Ganapati mantra. More commonly, Ganapati is invoked, as I had mentioned earlier, at times when we want to achieve something out in the world. You're starting a new project, resolution, business, something, and you want success in that. So you're going to chant this Ganapati mantra to help you with that. And that's wonderful, and that's okay, and that's a great way to do it. And in a practical sense as well, it can be another great way to start your meditation practice, to help remove the obstacles that you're placing in front of being present. So I will almost exclusively start any meditation and any mantra practice, no matter what other mantra I might be working with 108 rounds of this Ganapati mantra. Because who and what is Ganapati again, but rather that aspect of the universe and our own self that is both placing obstacles before us and removing them away. So I might go sit to meditate and be like, okay, this is my meditation time. I've got, let's just say, a half hour to meditate. And you sit down, you're like, well, I can't meditate right now because I have to plan what's going to happen later in the day. I've got this important meeting, this important thing to do, and I got to do all this. So I have to think about all that instead. That's Ganapati. That's the stuff we're putting in front of ourselves that's preventing us from being with this moment, with Udyamo Bhairava, as the Shiva Sutra says, right? This just upsurge, this flashing forth of awareness that's happening in this very moment that is divine. I couldn't possibly access that because I have to think a million things. I have to do a million things and plan and create expectations for the world. So this Ganapati mantra is there to help clear those obstacles that we're putting in the way that's preventing us from being present with this very moment. So again, you can invoke Ganapati for success out in the world or whatever, and that's great and fine. But I also do encourage you to develop a more personal relationship with Ganapati that is allowing us a deeper relationship with the moment, with our true nature. That true nature is the same in everyone and everything. So by deepening the relationship with myself, it's not like me as an isolated thing and a construct of who Ashton is and what I like and don't like, but rather that aspect of myself that is everything, that is this body, that is all of you, that is a person in front of me, a stranger, someone that my mind is telling me is a friend or an enemy. It's allowing me that deeper intimacy and connection, because that's really what Ganesha is all about, is about learning how to deepen intimacy with life itself. As we learn through his origin story, Shakti, energy, life itself, created Ganapati because she wanted intimacy. She wanted relationship. She had Shiva, but Shiva was always off transcending the world and transcending the universe. No relationship, disconnected. So she created Ganapati out of her desire to be in relationship. So Ganesha is that aspect that allows us to create a deeper relationship, not only with life and the material world, but also with the transcendent, not as a separate thing, but as a connected, integrated thing. Remember, Ganesha is digesting and integrating everything, the transcendent and the immanent. So I don't even know how long we've been going here. Woo! It's already been about an hour. Maybe we'll maybe we'll share the origin story for the next one. I can share both the King Kubera story and his origin story, because I guess I've been talking for a while here. I tend to do that. So I sorry, not sorry. I love to share this stuff, so I'll talk about it and share it all day long. Maybe I'll come on an extra time if you guys want today, just to share more stuff. I mean, there are way more stories of Ganesha to share. I know I didn't really share a story yet. It was mostly just talking about his symbology. But yeah, I'm happy. I'm going to be here all day. I'll be sharing stuff, so happy to share with all of you. But maybe we can have a little break now, just to sit and be, or wherever you are. I do encourage you today, as part of your meditation resolution, to really look at what is preventing you from deepening intimacy with yourself, with everyone around you, with everything around you. As someone that has a natural tendency to want to be in that transcendent state, I often have to remind myself of the importance of relationship. That's why Ganapati is so powerful in my own life, because he's reminding me to come back into relationship. And what allows you the capacity to come into deeper relationship with life? What prevents you from coming into deeper relationship with life? What are the obstacles that you're placing in front of you that don't allow you to connect with someone with a different political view or a different idea of the world? Or what are the obstacles you're putting? Easy example, I was driving my daughter to a play date a few weeks ago. I planned to come home to catch a online lecture from one of my teachers, Douglas Brooks, and my car broke down. Right? And in that moment, it's like, oh, why does this have to happen to me? And I got angry and disconnected from life, because it was like, this sucks. This was unexpected. I had a different expectation of how my day was going to go. But that's Ganapati to say, well, here's an obstacle, but here's also that same obstacle to deepen intimacy with life, even in that moment of the unexpected. So what allows you, even in those moments when things don't go expected, to snap you out of your own mind and come into a deeper relationship with life as it's arising in this moment? Because that ultimately will be this message of Ganapati, is how do we come into deeper intimacy and relationship with every aspect of life as it comes. So I hope you have enjoyed. I'll come back. Like I said, I'll be back in now 2 hours time at 12. We'll share some more depending on that time there. I can share both his origin story and the King Kubera story, or I can come on an extra time today to share another story, or I can share those then and come on an extra time. This is all I really do all day anyway, so I don't really have a social life outside of my family. So happy to be on here and share with all of you. I'll stay on for a couple more minutes if there are any questions or any comments that you wanted to make and to share. Thank you all so much for joining us. I really do hope you'll join us later today as well at 12 p.m. Pacific and 4 p.m. Pacific for more stories, more mantra. This has been fun. Like I said, this whole Instagram Live thing's pretty new to me, so I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying being here with all of you. You're welcome. Thank you too. Thanks for being here. It'd be kind of weird if I was just talking to myself, so thank you all for being here and sharing. I really do hope you will join us later. Like I said, if there's any questions, you can put them in there. I'm happy to answer what I can and stay on for a few more minutes. You are all most welcome. Can I make this mantra any more personalized by added anything? Well, what I would encourage to explore with that, somebody asked, can I make this mantra any more personalized by adding anything? That's Ganapati showing up as, I need it to be more personalized so that I can then connect to it more, right? It's another obstacle we're putting in the way to say like, life as it is, or this mantra as it is, needs more before I can connect to it. That will be the story of Kubera, King Kubera later, of always needing something more, another spiritual teaching, another practice, another job, another relationship, all this before I'm able to be immersed into what is. So it's not that you can't add things to mantras, do ultimately what feels right for you, but I would encourage you to be with the mantra as it is and develop a relationship with it. And then if it naturally evolves, I would encourage you to explore that as well, but I would really encourage you first just to be with the mantra as it is. It is personalized because Ganapati is you. So there's no more deeper personalization and intimacy than that. You're basically just saying like, Om, I bow to myself. Om, I bow to myself. As this aspect that's constantly putting things in front of me and taking them away and helping me come into relationship with the world. Should we chant Ganapati Mantra daily? Whew. Well, I mean, as a tantric yogi, I think we should be chanting every day. Not to should on anybody, but mantras in the tantric tradition are very much like angels are in the Christian tradition. They are this subtle force of the universe that is a direct link to the divine. Now this world is divine as well, but again, without getting too philosophical, we have these mullahs, these impurities, these misunderstandings of the nature of reality that make us feel separate and different. And so mantra are here to remove those mullahs, those it's like dirt on the cover of a mirror that doesn't let us see, or a window that doesn't let us see clearly. The mantras help to remove the dirt so that we can see things more truly as they are. So I think a regular practice of any mantra, let alone this Ganapati mantra, is a great idea. Chris, to be in your live video, I don't know how to do that. Yeah, wonderful. Again, if there's any other questions, I'll stay on for just another minute, and then hope to see you all at 12 o'clock Pacific as well for some stories and more mantra. I noticed Suzanne yesterday also shared some mudras. I'd be happy to share some Ganapati mudras with us later too, if that is of interest to anyone. So please just let me know either now if you're on, or direct message me on my Instagram if that's something that you like, and I'd be more than happy to share some Ganapati mudras with us later as well. All right, well, I don't see any more questions coming in. So that will be all for now. It's just a little longer than I expected it to be, but in truth, if any of my students are on here, you know that I always go longer. I'll start on time, but I always go longer than is required because I just love sharing all this stuff with all of you. So if you've made it through all this, thanks for being here. The 108 significance. Wow. That will take some time to unpack. It's also something that, well, let's perhaps leave that for later. As I mentioned, I hadn't spoken directly to why 108 is significant. There's a lot of numerology involved with that. But let's just say for now, whether you want to go 108 or 100 or 1,000 or 1,008 or 1,080 or whatever it may be, like, it's okay. There is a special significance to 108 within the Hindu tradition, but ultimately it matters within the context of the tradition. As I'm not a Hindu. I wasn't born a Hindu. although I do identify as a Shaivite, as someone who, because of the practices and the texts that I utilize and connect with, the name of the divine that I give is Shiva, but you can give it the name Shiva or Shakti or Krishna or Yahweh or Allah or whatever. Like I'm cool with you connecting however way, and if there are certain ways that you want to work with these mantras and that's all good. But I'll touch on one of my later videos, because that's a much larger thing to unpack as well. So Mary, hope you'll join us later, and I promise ask me again and I'll touch on it a little bit more. But okay. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for joining me. I really hope you'll join us later today, 12 Pacific and 4 Pacific. If enough people want more, if we have more time for that, I will do that as well too. Because like I said, I'm just hanging out all day anyway. So hope to see you all soon. Thank you so much for being here. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Often you'll hear people say goodbye with Namaste, which in India, Namaste is more of a greeting than a goodbye. So instead of Namaste, we'll say Anugrah Hitosmi, which just means I'm blessed. I'm blessed by each of you being here and joining us today. You're blessing me. We're all sharing in this blessing that is the modaka, the sweet treat of Ganesha. So with that, Anugrah Hitosmi. Thank you all for joining. I will see you hopefully shortly in a few hours.